Ms. Lestari Murdiat as the Vice Chairperson of the People's Consultative Assembly of the Republic of Indonesia, which be delivered by Mr. Muhammad Farhan as the Member of the House of Representatives of Indonesia. For Mr. Muhammad Farhan, the time is yours.
Baik, oke, good. Ini online juga ada? Ada yang online. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Izinkan saya menyapa dengan bahasa Indonesia terlebih dahulu kepada Bapak-Bapak dan Ibu para akademisi di Universitas Airlangga, baik yang hadir secara offline maupun secara online. Saya Muhammad Farhan, saya mewakili Ibu Lestari Murdiat sebagai Wakil Ketua MPR RI dalam menyampaikan sambutan tertulisnya. Good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Farhan. I am the member of the National Assembly of Indonesia. I am representing Ibu Lestari Murdiat. She is the co-chairperson of the National Assembly of Indonesia. I am here to read her keynote speech with the title of What Dream, What Challenge, What Projects for a Global Future. With all the respect to all the participation or all the participants online and offline, and also all the academicians from all around the world, it is our honor and pleasure to be here, to share a lot of thoughts and ideas, to ask you all together to join, to have a bigger dream about an inclusive world, finding a solution for every challenges, hoping for a workplace that champions diversity, equality through a chain of ideas and thought about a comfortable world for a human and environment ecosystem. The future of the world is brighter because humans can adapt, make every dream come true, accustomed with measured works that facing various events to eventually become a magnet for science and technology innovation that are more human friendly. Okay. I can read it through one more time. Do you need one? No? Okay, good. Ladies and gentlemen, all the academicians, professors, the first Asian African Conference in Bandung, that's my hometown, on April 1955, successfully formulated an agreement each other after the World War II. In short, 10 principles of Bandung called for respect to fundamental human rights, respect every country's with its rights and obligations, technology disruption, sociopolitical conflicts, totalitarianism, famine, poverty, economic crisis, and many others. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to attract your attention. And recover after the global health crisis, which impacted every sector of human life, especially, I give you time. Oh, dipegang aja. Oke, baik. This reminds me of my old habits. Well, right now, every country is trying to revive and recover after the global health crisis, which impacted every sector of human life, especially health, education, and economy. The pandemic forced several potential sectors to stop operating, which caused economic crisis, internal and external problems, of course, obviously cannot be avoided. These dynamics demand us to quickly reorganize ourselves, optimizing all potentials to recover. And most importantly, every nation should start shaping the future. In shaping the future, we should know about every challenges, deal with the challenges with the future projection based on morality, and this is very important, cultural values of each and every one of us as a nation and as a country. Reflecting the Bandung 10 principles or Dasasila Bandung, it is important to strengthen and believe in local wisdom to make the world stronger. In Indonesia, for instance, our national pillars or commitments since 1945 are Pancasila, the 5 principles of our ideology, our constitution, the United of Republic of Indonesia, and a principle called Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, or beautifully put, united in diversity. Those are the guidelines in our nation's dynamics, shaping the future based on local wisdom, and nation values enable every community to strengthen the dynamic capability, instilling adaptive resilience, creating innovative capacity based on transformative orientation. Ladies and gentlemen, this may be not a very long keynote speech, but hopefully this will be very important points that will be brought to every academician here and scholars to be heard by the world. Local wisdom enables all countries to find solutions for global issues such as commitment to protect the environment, disaster mitigation, risk management to our life, ending all conflicts in the name of humanity, implementing equality, eradicating poverty and economic gap, as well as championing humanity in building a more peaceful world for all. Local wisdom enable us to adapt with technology innovation in formulating various efforts to shape the future for the world that can be a comfortable home for all. I personally want to emphasize the phrase comfortable home for all. The world order includes cooperation with other countries to revive and recover from the pandemic. Because the future of mankind will be easier with the new progressive technology, because it seems like everything seems possible right now. In Indonesian Constitution stated that one of the goals in state formation is to participate in the world order based on independence, eternal peace, and social justice. The world order includes cooperation with other countries to revive and recover from the pandemic, reinforce regional and multilateral cooperation to work together to end every catastrophe, especially chaos due to social political conflict, terrorism, nuclear threat, and other technology advancement. Hence, with all elements, should fight for are encouraging human talents. So what all elements should fight for are encouraging human talents, improving science and with technical skills, building infrastructures, encouraging economic growth, and improving the ability to defend based on state and cultural values. Shaping the future rooted on local wisdom should be implemented based on environment-friendly and humanly development, such as green energy project, humanity values-oriented sustainability life cycle, disaster resilience, gender equality, food security, livability, and well-being. Furthermore, shaping the future with digitalization due to technology innovation should be based on our own culture with one priority, placing human in the highest place. Ladies and gentlemen, I finished this speech with the highest regards to all the scholars here, offline and online, to bring this as the voice of the world. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farhan, for the speech. Our next agenda is the plenary session 8, which is going to talk about gender and women's issue, hosted by Mrs. Dia Aryani Arimbi, Magister of Art, PhD from Indonesia, as the co-chair. All right, sure. Oh, sure. Okay.
Can you imagine how many?
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Karin. Good morning, everyone. Again, I hope that you have a very good rest last night after having these wonderful cultural nights of the wayang performance, Adu puppet performance. Now, I'm sorry, but we have very tight schedule because the session should finish at 11th. And then there's another plenary sessions, and then you have to rush to the airport because your flight is 3:30, and usually it takes 1 or 1.5 hours here to the airport. Okay, so for the sessions on gender and women's issues, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dia Ariani Arimbi. I'm from the Faculty of Humanities, and today I'm supposed to be with Seema Mehra Parihar from India, but unfortunately she couldn't make it to this conference. And then there will be a number of speakers offline and online. And so I would like to invite the speaker offline, Adolf Ortens, and then Pak Wahyu Susilo. I'm afraid he's not here. And then Karina Kailu, and then Carla Braga. And the last is Hiroko Kinoshita. Okay, would you please come to the stage? We have also 3 online speakers, Swarnamayi Tripati from India, Randa Kadada from Palestine, and Nasim Basiri from Iran, USA. Okay, because it's very, very tight, our schedule, so I would like all the speakers to speak not more than 10 minutes. I'm afraid, I'm sorry, because we don't have much time here. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to ask Hortense Atloff from France to have her presentation. Oh, there's one day.
Yes. It's safer if I take yours. Not mine. So I'd like to introduce myself first. Thank you very much for having me among you today. I'm very honored and very delighted to hear from all of you, and to it's a nourishment really to see many different ways to think and to act. So thank you very much for all of your contributions yesterday and today. So I'm Hortense Adloff. I'm coming from France, as my name says so. I'm from Lyon, and the most beautiful city in France. Never go to Paris. Okay, Lyon is way enough. You'll find out soon enough that I'm not a scholar. So what I want to bring to you today is actually from personal experience, but also observation and research. I would like it to be a message of hope, I think. I hope it will be like this, perceived as a message of hope. My title is The Woman's Body is Good News for the World. So yes, the woman's body has plenty to say, and let's hear a bit of it. In the Western societies, we have transmission on the fact that the woman's body is a burden, because it calls for discrimination, because it implicates vulnerability. So we had a long time of patriarchy domination, which women also searched for in some way, because they need protection. So now in the Western societies, we are proud to say that women's free from domination, from male domination. But actually, what we have today is another kind of domination, which I would like to talk about. My first part will be about a report on what's going on in the Western societies about the women's body, but also something that is telltale in other other cultures, other countries. I mean, it's not only Western countries that have this problem, unfortunately. My second part will be more about what exactly the body has to say. And then my third part will be about alliance and not fight. So today, the modern society really dissociates women's body, women from their body, willingly also from women, but also in kind of thirst for recognition and for acknowledgement. So being fertile is not a good thing because it puts you in danger, it puts you at risk. Being pregnant is also something you can be discriminated against because it makes you vulnerable, makes you tired, you're not performing. You know, performance is really important in Western societies, so profit and performance. So when you hire someone, the boss might prefer a man because he's not subject to change. But the women change. So that's why. So we came from a patriarchal domination to a chemical domination with the use of pill, you know, so the pill, to control our body, but also to shut it down so that it doesn't say anything, it doesn't change you, it doesn't annoy you, burden you, make you feel pain. And we went from a desired infertility to another extreme, which is artificial fertility, because many women in the Western society, because they want recognition, put their career, which is not, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying we need a balance. So they put their career in front of everything as a priority. And when they come to the age where they really want to have a baby, but it's too late, thankfully, the company provides in vitro. So we came from pill, which is chemical domination, to artificial fertility. So I don't have much time, so I'll try to be very quick. The consequences in this is that we endanger the consequences with dissociating women from their body is that we endanger many things. We endanger childhood, we endanger women's place, we endanger also nature, because it's the same process, okay? The way we handle nature so far is the same way we handled women's body so far. So there is a link between environmental crisis and women's crisis. We need to stop this utilitarian approach. So this is really linked with our current challenges. Maybe you could, I didn't tell you to skip the slides, but you can go. Sorry. Yes, the next one. Yes, and next one. All right. So I bet all of you know a woman, or either you or a woman, or you know a woman in your environment. So it's a concern for everyone, not just for women. So even though you're a man, please listen. The woman's body is an inside coach. Next, please. It's an inside coach. We have cycles, and we must not shut them down because they bring so much on the way we see the world and the way we act upon the world and the way we build the world also. We have an approach with the seasons. You know, you start with winter, you feel really tired and all, so you have no energy. It's a time for settlement, it's a time for rest, it's a time for insight, it's not a time for decision. It's a time for humility and accepting to not know. And then you have the springtime, and the springtime is when the ovulation comes up, and then you are full of energy, full of ideas and projects, and you want to climb mountains, and you feel you can do it. And it's amazing because it's a high creativity time. Then you have the summertime. We select one project and we get it through and we communicate on it and we are sure about it. And then we have the autumn time. So it's more time of criticism. We look back and we say, okay, what went wrong, what went right, what do I want to keep, what do I want to lose. That's the time when we see everything going wrong, you know. We criticize and we reject everyone. Wow. Yeah, because we need this criticism time. The woman's body through life is also subjected to these seasons. You find it, you know, during spring is youth, and then summer is time for job, place, maternity, and then autumn, of course, is menopause, and then winter. All of these, can you get through? Thank you. There is also pregnancy, so I don't have much time, but pregnancy is also one of the best self-help you can get when you're a woman, and delivery also. But in the Western society, pregnancy is a risk. It's a danger, you know, they fear for you. So they send you to the hospital, and they make you get through a lot of checkups and so on, to the point that many women do not feel self-confident anymore. They do not get their own authority on their body and on the way they want to live their pregnancy. And so they give everything up to the medical body. And so they have epidural, they have cesareans, because it's so scary, you know, to be a woman and to give life. But giving life, delivery, is one of the most important self-help for the woman. It's empowerment, because you have intimacy. Can you get to the next slide, please? You have intimacy with metaphysical concepts. Okay, so I listed some of them. You know, the time concept, we really have intimacy with it. So if you shut it down, how can you have a good look on the woman's body? How can you know what the woman's identity is? How can you even promote, value, empower, secure, protect women? You can't. You can't. The same. It's a really simple answer. There is no way. If you don't know who the woman is, then you don't know who you are. The woman really reveals identity. And that's why my last part is more about, thank you. You can, next one. Is more about alliance. So I would like to shift from feminism today, which is a war against men, because women want to get the same recognition, you know, on the same grounds, on the same values as men. But we must promote women's values, okay, and get them recognition and acknowledgement. That's how you will have balance. And I'm not talking about competition, which we have now in the West, but alliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Otongs Atlof. Thank you. Very insightful presentation. Next, we will have Karina Kailo from Finland. She's from Oulu University. Time is yours.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and a safe place to talk about women's revolution. I will focus on the women's movement, which has happened since postmodernism, which was a failure, in my opinion, because it it assimilated women very much to the neoliberal and masculated world. But I have been involved with many women's organizations and grassroots activist groups, and I myself formed the Matri Forum in Europe. At this moment, I represent the Archaeomythological Institute, which was founded by Maria Gimbutas, who revolutionized archaeology when she discovered old Europe, the Danube civilization, a matriarchy from the 6th millennium before Common Era. And I'm particularly involved with a European branch, which is in Finland. The importance of knowing about the world's hidden, overwritten, peaceful, egalitarian cultures is because it allows us to imagine another future. I think that we need to give young people hope, not only these apocalyptic visions. And I think that instead of the third wave of feminism, we're now in the climate wave feminism. We have to pay attention to nature, exactly what Hortense was talking about. The combined oppression of nature and women is part of the crisis today. Here you have, in a very exaggerated form, the difference between matriarchy and patriarchy. I ask a rhetorical question: why don't we teach children in these different schools around the world about these matriarchies that were successful in respecting the planet, respecting all genders, and also having a political system where both women and men had their own councils and consensus was used to come up with decisions. I spent 9 years with the Cree Indians in Canada and learned a lot about their matriarchal system. And this is a picture from concerning the Great Law of Peace of the Iroquois. And on the right, you see the exaggerated picture of patriarchy. And I want to say that when I talk about patriarchy and matriarchy, I realize they are complex notions and there's a great variety. Patriarchy doesn't mean that women hate men. I even married one. And we talk about structures, institutions, dominant worldviews, and mostly the elites. Because men can be feminist, and for instance, in the Archaeomythological Institute, all the men are pro-feminist because they understand that peace came with the balance that was present in matriarchal societies. The peaceful egalitarian cultures that I have been studying for 20 years with my network, the International Network of Feminists for the Gift Economy, they include these: the Mosuo in China, the Minangkabau in Sumatra, many northern Native American tribes, the Khasi of India, the Khoisan of Africa, and so on. But patriarchy is being infiltrated into all of them, and that is a real loss. I wanted to talk especially about the mystery of the Danube civilization because, well, there's a mistake. The 6th millennium before the Common Era, not century. According to the recent studies where Harald Harman is very important, we had 3,000 years of peace in Europe, in the southeastern Europe, in the area which is now also Ukraine. So history is repeating itself because the peaceful egalitarian cultures were invaded by warriors and nomads coming from the east. And this book, I have it here if anybody wants to take a look. It has been translated into 15 languages. And Harald Harman is no unimportant hysterical feminist. He has written 70 books on pre-patriarchal democracy. So the ceremonial ritual role of women is an example in these matriarchies that patriarchy is neither universal nor without alternative. The unmistakable central role played by women in all European society suggests that they had clans which had a matrilineal structure with a female head and matrilineal traditions of ancestor worship. Maria Gimbutas from Lithuania coined the term matri-clan with collectivist principles. It's also called maternal communism, but of course, they would not agree with the, the imported notion of communism, which has turned out to be very different from this peaceful egalitarian system. And also in Hungary, apparently, in this period before patriarchy, there was a matriarchal social structure. My own research is on the north, on Finno-Ugric peoples, and I'm finding that in Russia, among the Finno-Ugric peoples also, there's more and more signs of the matriarchal past. I think that the peace movement should consider also patriarchy as a main source of problems in the world, because finally, who colonized Europe and the rest of the world? It was the Western patriarchal religions and missionaries themselves who, starting with old Europe, brought a very different, violent worldview into what was a much eco-socially more sustainable system before. I don't suggest that we all go back to the Stone Age or move into matriarchy, but I think that we should try to be open to the best practices in both systems and somehow find a balance. A nuclear family is taken for granted, although in a patriarchal nuclear family, it is it's a kind of war system, capitalistic system, because it's based on abuse of women's emotional or domestic power, and at the same time, the war is where women are allowed to be raped, and the most serious problem now after COVID and after the war, at least in the northern part and in Ukraine, is that there's a huge rise in violence against women. And so why was there no violence in matriarchal societies? The women stayed with their maternal clan. They stayed in the extended family unit and raised the children together with their sisters and brothers and mothers. And so there was none of the vulnerability of the economic dependence of nuclear family women. There was no rape. For instance, among the Iroquois, they always talk about the fact that they were taught to rape only by the missionaries coming to Canada. And you know, today I have visited a lot of the native communities, and there's a lot of rape and abuse, but they are recovering the old ways. And when they had balance of power, men were dependent on women and women were dependent on men. So there was no possibility for a rape culture of domination. And they don't have a word for rape in the traditional Iroquoian system. So peaceful egalitarian societies have complementary gender roles without any dualism. Still, women are mostly the gatherers, men are the hunters in the traditional system, but in many of the matriarchies, women were responsible for trading, and they practiced what is called the gift economy. And that's another huge topic, but it's a women's notion of economics without any of the capitalistic problems. So I think that we would all agree that we need a world without gendered violence, without physical, economical, psychological, religious demonization of women, and without trafficking in women and children, without pornography, without sexual domination, and the kind of reproductive technology that Hortense was talking about. I was horrified to hear from her that they are now trying to invent amniotic fluid technologically so that women don't have to give birth anymore. So they try to recreate the womb and the amniotic fluid. And that's a domination of both women and nature. So in this social order, beyond domination of nature and women, no gender was deprived of voting rights or democratic rights of representation because they had interactive men's and women's councils. And I think it's a very interesting idea that power, okay,
Karina.
I'll finish here. The power relations are prevented from becoming tyrannical when you give most power to the most vulnerable. So among the Iroquois, they give most power to elderly women who have been found to be just, and they have the final word on war and peace. And I saw this myself in Oka crisis in Montreal, where the women were deciding about war and peace. And they are the ones who give the guns then to the men if they think it's important to defend their culture. And war is only a question of defending one's culture and never colonial conquest. Okay, so I finish here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very insightful. Next, we have Carla Braga from Mozambique, from University Eduardo Mondlane, Maputo. Time is yours. Yes.
Okay. Thanks to the organizers of this amazing conference, and thanks to Darius for inviting me. I was told I should not bring PowerPoints, so I'm an obedient girl. Not really, but I didn't. Anyway, I would like to begin by making clear my positionality. I'm a woman from Mozambique in East Africa, where I'm based, and I belong to a privileged, educated elite. And I know I'm in a panel on gender, but allow me to begin quoting a man, a thinker from Cameroon on West Africa, Akili Mbembe, who I remember him each time I have to write or to address issues related to Africa. He speaks about the difficulties involved in writing about Africa and the risks that are associated with reproducing, maybe even perpetuating, he says, the most cynical and obtuse prejudices about Africa. So these are the risks I'm taking here. And I choose to address briefly issues of representation because representations influence the way we imagine reality. And most important for me, they influence the way one acts or pretends to act upon that reality. So representations of Africa, representations of women in Africa. I'm not talking about African women. I don't know what that is or what that could be. You know, in a continent with more than 50 countries and diversity of religions and cultures, what an African woman could be. But, and I don't want, or at least I'll try, not to essentialize or not to homogenize. So, representations of Africa are usually associated with chaos, catastrophe, failures of all sorts. And the continent is usually portrayed as a space of absences, of lacks. Lack of peace, lack of education, lack of health. And women women in Africa, I don't know if you would agree with me, but are usually portrayed as extremely poor, pregnant. There was already a talk on pregnancy, and surrounded by Black children, not just by children, but by Black children. You know, kind of evoking all kinds of Malthusian fears about overpopulation and so forth. So what I think this kind of representation conceals, makes invisible other realities. For instance, women in Africa, most of Africa, not only in my country, are the major food product. They are responsible for food production in the continent. I think that's a major feat. The other issue is that, for instance, in face of IMF, World Bank, structural adjustment programs, consequent rampant unemployment and actually huge crisis, women faced that crisis, and they were the ones to diversify their livelihoods outside agricultural production and resort to all kinds of economic activities. Anyway, so this for me is not devoid of agency, which is also one of the representations about African women. African women are devoid of agency, are absolutely disempowered. And what these kinds of discourses produce is somehow these poor women, pregnant, and so forth, need to be saved. They need to be rescued. So this narrative on the need to, I almost would say, to salvation. But the other issue of invisibility I would like to mention is the invisibility of other ways of thinking, other ways of doing, other ways of being, of conceiving the world. And here I'm taking an example, I don't have time to elaborate on it, of matrilineal societies. And again, I am speaking of the northern part of my country, I'm speaking of my own research, and also in Malawi. And I don't want to make generalizations about matrilineal societies as such. But in what concerns me, access to land in matrilineal societies is through, well, I said I didn't want to make a generalization, that I just made one. But okay, in the matrilineal societies I work, the land is inherited through the female side. And that assures women have access to land, even in case of divorce or widowhood, and they can ensure the survival of their families. Okay. Right now, World Bank funded policies are orienting land reform policy in my country, and not only, in other African countries too. And they resort to mobilizing metaphors like women's land rights. Who would be against, ensuring women's land rights, or land tenure security? But in fact, what they are doing, they are promoting the formalization of customary access to resources, not only to land. They are promoting and advancing the titling and individual titling of land. And I would say ignoring the commons and favoring individual property. What will be the consequences for men and women. Thank you, 2 minutes. And mostly for women in matrilineal societies is to be seen. Let me finish by mentioning Chandra Mohanty in a very telling book, Under Western Eyes, Third World Women and the Politics of Feminism, cautions about the risks of homogenization and the concealing of heterogeneity can actually lead to further the othering process. So I suggest that the category of African women actually produces that same othering and leads to inequality, leads to 1 minute, okay, leads to, it's not only African women or any other homogenizing category. But in the case of African women, this can lead actually that African women become somehow the embodiment of difference, of inequality, and I think become like the ultimate other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we know a lot about African women. Okay, next to Hiroko Kinoshita from Japan. She's from Kyushu University.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Hiroko Kinoshita. I'm an associate professor from Kyushu University, Japan. So in this the plenary session, Ms. Hortons and Dr. Kylo was talking about women and women's community, and Dr. Brugge focused on the African society and maternal society in Africa, or the field that she has been working on.
Not audible properly.
I would like to focus on LGBTQ, especially Indonesia. And I am the field worker, and I'm an anthropologist from the perspective of the area studies. And I have been working on Indonesia and Middle Eastern countries since I was in the master courses. So yesterday at the parallel session, I talk about like LGBTQ Twitter discourses, at least in Indonesia, but I adapted the more statistical analysis on that. But today, this time, I would like to focus in on like a recent issue of LGBTQ issue in Indonesia, and also I would like to address what we can do to resolve this problem. So first of all, the background of LGBTQ issue in Indonesia, especially in contemporary era. So the attack on LGBTQ people increased around since 2014. So the attacks contains like two aspects. One is a violent attack or physical attack. And one is, the other one is the verbal attack, which means like hate speech or like posting a lot of discriminative tweet on the Twitter or social media. So in terms of like a violent attack, like police or non-state agent organization such as FPE, Islamic radical organization like FPE had raid on LGBTQ people without noticing, or how can I say, like rushed into the gym that the gay supposed people were using or something. So such unreasonable and unfair raid has been occurred continuously since 2014, so which was warned by the human rights organization. And also in terms of the verbal attack on LGBTQ people, so like a political figure in the DPR. Sorry, I'm not mentioning about DPR, but actually from the inside of the DPL, or other like the politician from the political party make some the statement on the public about LGBTQ people or LGBTQ people. That especially like 2 years ago, like 2020, like one of the politician state that the LGBTQ people have to send to the rehabilitation facility to cure their sexual orientation or such like that. And also other politicians says that, okay, so let's establish the facility to send them for rehabilitize or change their mind to become normal people in Indonesia. And also from the religious authority keep condemning on the LGBTQ, such as issuing a fatwa or issuing the statement or sikap. I mean, I don't know how to translate in English, but the sikap from the MUI that the LGBTQ people are deserved to death penalty, or LGBTQ people have to be penalized by the law, such like that. So these are the background, like since 2014 in the situation of Indonesia. But when we focus on the gender or gender law in contemporary Indonesia or Indonesia, so as we all know that Indonesia has a various cultural, linguistic, and diversity. So in especially for in the Bugis culture or Sulawesi, that the LGBT, not LGBT, but especially for the walia, like a transgender woman, played a special role in the religious ritual, such called the chalbai or bisu. And of course, they are existent and consist of their society. So, however, during the colonial era, so then like notion of social cultural role of man and woman were imposed by the colonial government. And of course, you know, like before the Dutch came, like Indonesia has the original like a separation of man and woman's role. But after that, such the Western like a notion of the man and woman social cultural role was imposed, that such like a people like Bisu or Chalabai or other LGBTQ people were like pushed into the corner of the society and abandoned. And then as if they are not treated like as if they are not existed, because their existence is not fit of the notion of the woman's role and man role in the Indonesian society. And then what is happening now is that, of course, that the violent attack is also keep occurring in the society. But recently, the political forces try to legislate and make their existence illegal. Yes. So the one example is that the criminal code, amendment of the criminal code, which is KUHP, the Kitab Undang-Undang Hukum Pidana, was submitted to the DPR. Like a people representative the council, but it was, you know, like a denied or stopped, fortunately. And also there are the two rhetoric of the legislation of LGBTQ people in Indonesia. So the one is like from the perspective of the family value or family plan. Yeah, so the perspective. And then people say that the existence of LGBTQ people are destroying the family bond or family planning in the society. They cannot bear children. They cannot have the kids, such like that. And the other is religious perspective. And then especially Islam organization or MOE says that the LGBTQ people, existence of LGBTQ people are evoking the moral panic in the society, or they are like deviant and prohibited by the religion. So they cannot allow their existence in the society. And so let me finalize, but what we can do for the coexistence in this society. So, you know, like after Suharto, the long regime, that Islamic forces during the hard regimes that the Islamic forces are pushed in the society, and the religion were the problem of the individuals, not politicalized. No, they are not allowed to do some political activity. But after the Satu era, like Islamic forces was like a splash and lashed into the arena of the politics. And then this is my hunch, but the LGBTQ people often becomes the target of their showing their privilege on the political arena, or they are used just for their trying to be their existence. Also, after my presentation yesterday, Dr. Deer gave me the very insightful information, which I hardly aware that there is also like a hierarchy among the LGBTQ society in Indonesia, and also this is also like the problematic. And then the walia is regarded as the lowest the rank inside and society, so they don't have a chance to elevate their social position in the society, or rejection from the higher education, or rejection from the society, or job opportunity, or so and so on. And then, so what we can do for the society is that we have to go back to the Kauno's idea, like a Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. So we have to remember that. So the Bhinneka Tunggal Ika is a unity in the diversity. So in my understanding, what Kauno was trying to do was like a unity and unite the people, even though we have a different language, like more than 500 language, the original language in Indonesia, but unite in the Bahasa Indonesia, and also no matter how our religion is different, ethnicity or sexuality, and so on and so on. So we are all different, but we have to, that what he was trying to do was like to unite the people living in Indonesia under the flag of under the red and white flag of the Indonesia. Okay, so yeah, so it's a time for to finish my presentation, and thank you. But I hope that this like a society, of course, not only Indonesia, but the Japan and other Western countries and other like Islamic countries has a evoking such a like, LGBTQ people's program. But I hope that this society and my loving Indonesia, I think my Indonesia is my second hometown, so Indonesia would be the word that for our for Indonesia, the people, for the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hiroko Kinoshita. Okay, next we move to the online presentations. We have 4 speakers here. Unfortunately, we only have 20 minutes left. So I would ask for the speaker to limit their presentation for just 5 minutes. My apology, but I'm afraid if we are not strict in time, there will be no time for you to move to the airport because that's very crucial. All right, so let's start with Swarna Mayi Tripathi from India. Okay, you have 5 minutes for your presentation. Time is yours. Oh, yes. You can always move there.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Actually, being an online presentation is discriminatory, what I say. Okay, so I will just give a very brief presentation of my arguments, women as effective managers. Let me tell you, my targeted population is the women leaders who are working at the grassroots level in India, and they are since at the grassroots level of the governance
Okay. Connection. Oh, her connection. Maybe if you could close the video, maybe that will be easier. Because usually the video use a lot of data. Oh, we lost her. Okay. All right. Okay. Now maybe we can move. This is problem with connection. Yes.
Problem.
Yeah. Now you're back. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So in the beginning of this 21st century, an American administrative theorist, Camilla Stivers, said that we are actually underestimating the managerial capacities of women because we are not documenting their contributions to society. She said that in the first of 20th century, when there was a crisis in the United States, both men and women contributed to that. In fact, women worked in settlements to improve the lives of poor. But however, history did not document the contributions of women. So from being motivated by these arguments, I am saying you that in India, we have at the grassroots level, a panchayat institution, which is a public institution. We can call it as the fourth tier of administration, where we have a Gram Sabha and every adult member is a part of it. And in fact, 50% of these public institutions are women members. Let me tell you one thing. They have very little education, but they are capable of, with the help of their self-help groups, they are capable of controlling anti-liquor. They are able to do anti-liquor agitations at the panchayat level. They are able to lead anti-liquor agitations. They are able to control domestic violence. I will just give you one example of the tribal women where they protect their forests. This practice is called as Hingga Pali, to stop smugglers, timber thieves, and forest produce robbers. Group of 4 to 6 women in each village patrol the forests boundaries round the clock in 3 shifts, starting 6 a.m. till late night. They already know about the roots of timber mafia and have disabled their activities many times with the help of village and forest development networks. During the pandemic, the women leaders at the panchayat level were able to provide support to the migrant women workers as well as men workers. So we just cannot say that they do not have any administrative ability. We have to change our narratives and we have to do more and more research to find out these leadership abilities and their style of leadership and the way they become successful to motivate more and more women at the grassroots level to come out with leadership. Second argument is mine. Education might be having some link to this, but I have found that women with very little education have become successful in providing leadership to their panchayats. So my submission to the August House is that we need to have more research on the style of leadership. women are providing at the grassroots level. I'm just sharing with you the experiments in India. We can just have such experiments in other countries where women at the grassroots level are providing leadership. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Swarna Maye Tripathi.
I am Swarna Maye Tripathi, a professor in public administration, and I have done research throughout my life on gender studies.
Okay, thank you very much. Big applause to Professor Tripathi. Okay, now next we have Randa Kadada from Palestine. She's a lawyer, legal instructor, and working on women's rights in Gaza. Time is yours. I'm sorry, but the presentation is limited to just 5 minutes. Oh, okay, Randa, we lost connection to Randa Kadada Zoom link. So we move to Nasim Basiri from Iran, USA. She's a doctoral candidate at Oregon State University.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dia. I hope you're doing well.
Yes.
And I see Darvis also. Hello, Darvis. I wish I was there. Anyways, thank you so much for having me here. I know I have 5 minutes, so I just want to bring into your attention the women-led revolution that is happening in Iran. It's a momentous and historical time for us, for Iranian women and also men and LGBTQ+ people to witness this revolution. But these are also very critical times because the tyrannical regime of Islamic Republic is using military and paramilitary forces to shut down the protests, and they're killing people. Most of the movements that led to these protests started from Tehran, and after the death of Mahsa Amini, the Kurdish woman who was arrested and got killed in Iranian prisons. So the demonstrations is happening all over the world for Iran. And also in Iran, and then it's also happening in villages, in towns. That makes it very important that so many scientists have called it a cultural revolution because of the psychological and social transformations of COVID, and then also the conferences, all these human rights campaigns went online. And then Iranian nation was confronted with a totally different world after suffering for 40 years of global apartheid and internal oppressions. So I wanted to request all of you to represent Iranian women or present Iranian women at your universities or organizations, or if you can organize panels so Iranian academics and intellectuals can come and address issues around women and what they want, what are their demands, so the world can help them. Because in these 40 years after 1979 revolution, Iranian women's body, soul, life, private life was totally invaded by the government, and they forced them to change, to become people that they were not, both physically and mentally. So it's like they put them in a mental prison without mental health support. The entire nation went through a very difficult time, especially women, and LGBTQ people got executed and persecuted so bad. We actually have lots of friends who are journalists and academics now in prisons just because they were covering or writing about the movement. So this regime is going, but what we need is global solidarity, global academic solidarity, feminist solidarity, because even though Iranian government prevented the researchers to go to Iran or Iranian researchers to go to the West and talk about human rights issues in Iran, we did not get enough support from the Western university or global networks of academics, again, because of the fear of terror, and the government of Iran was threatening the entire world. So now things have changed, and I have 1 more minute. I just invite you to do something for Iran at your university level, in your countries, because it's devastating. COVID has destroyed the country, economy, human rights, violence. We all talk about all these issues in the conference. So, but in Iran, it's very intense. Nobody deserves that. Anyhow, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nazim. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we have Pak Wahyu Susilo, the Executive Director of the Migrant Care Indonesia. Pak Wahyu?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, my friend from. I apologize because I cannot join online in this very important meeting. But in this opportunity, allow me to present latest issues and the new vulnerability experienced by Indonesian migrant workers, mostly women, namely the trade exposure against radicalism and violent extremism. The brief presentation emphasizes some of the research findings conducted by the IPAC, Institute for Policy Analysis and Conflict, led by Dr. Sidney Jones in 2017, and research conducted by my organization, Migrant Care, in 2019. The research conducted by the IPAC state in Hong Kong, some of Indonesian migrant workers, mostly women, have been indicated to be involved in the ISIS network, and I think the result of this research disturbed the Indonesian migrant worker, because this is stigmatizes migrant worker as a terrorist. But however, although the number of Indonesian migrant workers exposed to radicalism or violent extremism is very small, but this still receives serious attention for the government. In 2019, Migrant Care conduct research on the potential exposure of migrant workers to radicalism and violent extremism EDS, and this research was conducted in area of origin of migrant worker in Banyuwangi, in Jember, in Wonosobo, also in destination countries like in Malaysia, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Our finding from research confirmed the IPAC's research that indeed migrant workers have vulnerability to experiencing exposure to ideas of radicalism or violent extremism. This vulnerability is inseparable from the vulnerability that have been experienced by Indonesian migrant workers, such as discrimination, stigmatization, and facing xenophobic policy. So they experience alienation, so they have often seek a way out of religious activity. Why migrant worker targeted for recruitment by radical group? Radical group, because they connected the community both offline and through organization and online through social media platform, and they also have financial resource that can be utilized, the financial support for terrorism activities. In the situation of alienation of the hijrah option become the hijrah option hijacked by the violent extremism. Yeah, this is our experience with the issue migrant and terrorism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Wahyu Susilo. Next, we have Randa Kadada from Palestine. Okay, okay. Okay, Randa Kadada, are you there? Yes, yes, yes. She's a lawyer, legal instructor, and community activist supporting humanity and women's rights in Gaza Strip, Palestine. Randa, are you there? Hello? Still in the link? Oh, but no response. Yeah, maybe you can chat her. Ask her to start. Okay. Ah. There she is. Hello, Randa. Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Are you hearing me?
Yes, now it's clear. Yes.
Maybe I have some problem in the internet or
You already closed your video, right? Because usually video use data, a lot of data.
I can't open the camera. Maybe
Yeah, because
there's
your
some problem.
Yeah. Is it ours or hers? Okay, her connection. Okay. Okay, what should we do? Yeah. Yes. This is the last one, but she was there. She was present yesterday on the panels as well, but unfortunately, maybe today her connection. No, but she was just there. Yeah. Yes, yes. Is it okay now with your connection, Randa?
I ask, do you hear me well, or there's
Yes,
problem?
yes.
And
Now it's okay. Now it's okay. Yes.
Okay, it's a problem to open the camera. Can I?
No. I don't think you need to open the camera because it saves the connection.
Yes, because when I opening the camera, I go out the parallel.
Yes. Just close the camera and you can start your presentation now. It won't be long. It's only 5 minutes. So time is yours.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I thank you for this referral out Okay.
The voice is up and down.
Yes. Now, first of all, thank you for taking part of your precious time to this meeting. Allow me to express how happy and proud am I in this participating in this conference as a Palestinian to convey the suffering we women suffer from what we lived under the Israeli state. All of that violence is a global phenomenon and that women suffer from in different countries, but it varies from place to place according to circumstances surrounding women.
I don't think we have time for discussion, but it's already 11. And there should be 15-minute breaks and then the next plenary session.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, well, we have a 15-minute coffee breaks and then the next session on the ecology. So do you have something to say, Pak Farhan, please do.
Allow me to address in the political point of view and the political landscape about the gender issue, and that includes also the LGBTQ. And this also will give you a little perspective of political landscape about the indigenous people and indigenous culture in Indonesia. Well, you may see that Indonesia is the housebread of thousands of indigenous people. But yet again, like in any other developing countries, we are actually destroying our indigenous people throughout, destroying the land. And unfortunately, most of the political figures and political leaders are pro to the destroying the land by thinking that these indigenous people should be modernized to their version, which is devastating. Not to our defense, but the fact is, my faction with Ibu Lestari Murdiat is working very hard in establishing a new law of protecting the indigenous rights over their land, which is opposed by 8 other political power in the parliament right now. So we are the only one. Obviously, the law is still there. We are working very hard in order to make it through to be implemented as a law. And in LGBTQ, it is true that some political parties are pushing the agenda to put the LGBTQ prohibition into the law. There are 2 polarization in terms of political debate in the parliament right now. But it is more of individuals, not political party. One side is to put the prohibition. The other side, which means this other side, is that the state is not supposed to interfere with their people's sexual orientation. We're not supposed to do that, despite of our religion religious belief. But when it comes to same-sex marriage, it is impossible in Indonesia to apply the same-sex marriage because it is more than just religious belief. It is also into the legal system, which is very hard to accept, to change the legal system. Because our marriage law clearly stated that wedding lock between two individuals in Indonesia, which means between two different genders. It is clearly stated that way. And it is very, 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 very hard to change that. So there were two particular scary case in Aceh. Maybe you study it again. In Banda Aceh and in Biren, where the mayor of those two cities actually published a decree of not giving a space of life and employment to those who is suspected to be gays or queer. That decree, as I know, until now, has never been revoked. I don't know if it's still implemented because it's pretty much depend on the political orientation of the mayor now. Even though it's funny enough that the former mayor of Banda Aceh, who published the decree, is a woman who is now working with me in the parliament, especially in the legislative chamber. So that's all I need to say, just a little insight about how the political landscape is addressing all the issue that all these distinguished ladies presenting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Farhan. Thank you, everyone. I'm afraid we have no time for question and answer because we're already late for the next session, for the plenary session. What we can learn from this presentation from all walks of life, especially on women and then those who are marginalized, the LGBTQIA women in Africa, women in Indonesia, or even women in every part of the world. I believe that the road to equality, not only gender equality, but the road to equality is still a long way. And we have to have a strong heart to keep fighting that someday we will reach this equality, regardless of gender, social, economic, and all kind of differences, because after all, we are citizens of the world, right? We are citizens of the world regardless wherever we come from. Thank you very much. And I close the session for today. Thank you. Thank you for all speakers, online and offline. I return it back to Mbak Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma'am Dia, and also for all of the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is we are going to have a coffee break, so about 10 minutes, so we can have a break for a while and enjoy the coffee and snacks outside this room. And we can go back again later on, hopefully in 11:20. We can go back later on in this room. Enjoy. See you later.
Yeah, so we will be back at 11:20. Prof. Santi, yeah? Is that right? Okay, no? 11:15? Okay, 11:15. I'm so sorry from the chair request. Yeah, 11:15. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so sorry. So correction, 11:15. We'll be back with the second plenary session for today, the last but not the least. Definitely, yeah. So please have a very short coffee break and please come back to the main session again at 11:15. Thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For anyone in this room, could you please go back to your seat again because we will continue our second session. Once more, for people who's already in this room, can you please go back to your seat because we are going to continue our second session. And also for those who still in the outside, we are going to continue our second session in a minute. Thank you. Announcement for people who are already in this room, can you please go back to your seat because we are going to continue our second session. And for those of you who are still in the outside, can you please go back in this room because we're going to continue our second plenary session. Once more, ladies and gentlemen, can you please go back to your seat because we're going to continue our second session. Ladies and gentlemen, Could you please go back to your seat? Welcome back. Right now, we're going to have our next plenary session about ecology, health, urban or rural issues, and sustainability. Please welcome Mr. Eka Swandiansa and also Professor Santi Martini from Indonesia as our co-chairs today. We also have some speakers, both offline and offline, who are going to give the presentation as well. Thank you very much. Time is yours.
Hello. Okay, thank you for MC. Okay, good morning. We come to the last session. I hope that you still have enthusiasm to follow with us, to join with our discussion today. Actually, we have 4 speakers ya Pak Eka ya, but finally we only have 3 speakers. One offline here, Pak Eka, but actually Pak Eka will deliver 3 topics ya, 3 topics. Yeah. And we have also 2 speakers online, Russell Meyer and Devon Dublin. Yeah. Are you with us, Pak Russell Meyer and Mr. Devon? Okay. Okay, we can start from the presentation. I think the first presenters, please, Mr. Russell Meyer. Hello. Hello. The topic is very interesting. It's about ecology, health, urban and rural. And I would like to say that yesterday we have also this, okay, we have Mr. Russell Meyer here.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning, yes.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, you have, I think we have not tight time. Okay, 7 until 8 minutes for you to present your paper or your idea. Please. Please, before that, you can introduce yourself.
yes, of course. Om Swastiastu from Bali, everyone. Assalamualaikum. And Guisai Agil Tako Amin. That's good morning in the Igorot dialect. My name is Russell Meyer. I'm one of the principals and co-founders of the Global Ecobrick Movement. Yesterday, my colleague, Banayan Angwe, and I had a chance to present our theory of ecological ethics to the conference and the session. We are extremely grateful to have the opportunity to share these ecological ideas and also to have a place for indigenous voices to be shared and to be spoken. My colleague Banayan, she's from the Igorot people where I resided, and our theory that we presented on ecological ethics is firmly grounded in the Igorot way of thinking, and on it we base an ethical theory that has many implications. I would like to begin by acknowledging Mr. Farhan, who did the keynote speech, and some of the words that he spoke. I hope he's still here so that he can hear my appreciation and also some of the concerns about his words. So Mr. Farhan spoke about how important it is to hear local wisdom. He spoke about lofty concepts like unity and diversity, a peaceful world for all, a comfortable house for us all. He spoke about the future of mankind. Yesterday, we had some other presentations that echoed these sentiments. So we had a speaker who spoke about Sukarno's geopolitical theory and referenced other lofty concepts like solidarity and coexistence. This is all fantastic. These are all important philosophical ideas that can ground our nations. Now, returning to the concept of local wisdom and paying attention to the often ancient wisdom traditions that permeate our lands. We had several presenters who echoed this thought yesterday also. Wolfgang Pepe, Tapio Vares spoke about indigenous knowledge and climate change. Again, so grateful that we have the Bandung Spirit Conference here today to share indigenous voices and also to talk about ecological issues, because as we all know all too well, today we may talk about political theory, economic principles, national priorities, but all these are mute unless they involve an ecological dimension. If we do not address the ecological issues that surround our economies and our societies and our cultures, well, we won't be talking for very long, or future generations of humans will not be. Now, we had a great presentation by Karina Kylo, who did a great job and gave many great examples of nations, ancient and ongoing, that have mastered their ecological integration, their social harmony, and their social and cultural harmony with the ecosystems around them. And I, again, echoing Mr. Farhan's comments about learning from local wisdom, I believe this is so important that we learn from these great traditions that have preceded us and that have achieved the very abundance and vitality of ecosystem and society that we so long for today. In my country of Canada, this is something we failed to do. We failed to pay attention to the Indigenous peoples, and we missed out on learning from them, in particular, their way of seeing the world. So when it comes to learning and respecting Indigenous cultures, what does this mean exactly? And I feel this is an absolutely essential question. Does it mean in manifesting matriarchal societies? Does it mean transitioning from a capitalist economy to a gift economy? Does it mean fundamental changes in the way we relate to each other? Perhaps it does, but first and foremost, for us here in this conference, I believe it has absolutely pressing significance as we discuss these lofty philosophical concepts. Mr. Farhan unfortunately spoke about placing humans in the highest place. This is precisely the lesson that we did not learn in my country from the great nations, ancient and ongoing there, that saw things very differently. They did not see humans in the highest place. They saw them as parts of the systems around them. They saw the creatures around them as their fellows, as their kin, even as family and as elders. And in this way, they were able to learn from them, learn the arts of ecological integration from the great and magnificent creatures around them, incorporate these ecological lessons as wisdom into their traditions and into their cultures. And in so doing, we're able to establish nations that didn't just not harm the ecosystems around them, but systematically enrich them. And I believe this is what we can aspire to today, simply by shifting the philosophical concepts that ground our discussions. So ideas like unity and diversity. Can we expand that to include unity and biodiversity, living with other creatures? Peaceful world for all. I think Mr. Farhan was thinking about peace among nations. How about peace with the ecosystems around us and that sustain us? He spoke of a comfortable home for all. I think it's far more important to speak of a common home for all, in which humans and other creatures, organisms and ecosystems are living in such a way that we respect one another philosophically and ecologically, where our way of thinking has transcended this old anthropocentric, human-centric way of seeing things, where humans are in the highest place, no more, and in which we are looking at the nations, the societies around us, the cultures, as integral parts of the ecosystems, biosphere, and biomes on a continental and local and global basis. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Russell, for your presentation and your idea. It's very interesting and very insightful. So we come to the next speaker, Devon Dublin.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Yes, we can hear your voice.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to share with you a few comments related to the topic of the conference itself. Can you see my slides?
We can see your slide. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right. So one of the questions I was asked are, what are the dreams that we have? And I start off by advocating that it should be based on a One Health approach that incorporates animal, human, and environmental health. Secondly, it should fit within the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which takes into account the socioeconomic aspects as well as that fits in with the biosphere. And thirdly, that within the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, which seeks to allow the world itself to reach this global vision by 2050 of living in harmony with nature. While those are all very lofty, there are challenges to get there. So what are these challenges? First, the planetary boundaries, which was advocated by the Stockholm Resilience Center. We see that of the 9 boundaries, we are really getting close to the limit. And specifically as it relates to biochemical flows and biosphere integrity, which refers to biodiversity, we're already way beyond our planetary boundaries. Of great concern is especially our biodiversity loss, which is a direct result of other aspects that are occurring, such as climate change, ocean acidification, etc., which collectively contribute to biodiversity loss. So we do have a lot of issues that we are faced with continuously, and many of them are intensifying. And when you look at the problems that we're faced with, it's related a lot to what we do as a society. And the one that's coming back to haunt us the most, I would say, is climate change, because we see an intensification of the natural disasters, which have been occurring normally in different cycles, but now they are much more intense, much stronger, and are claiming more lives. Our economies are also very environmentally based, partly because we need to extract things from the natural environment to support the economy. The integrity of the environment is very important for issues such as tourism. Agriculture interfaces with the environment, and it's important for food security. And so because our economies are related so much to environmental health, this becomes a challenge if we do not maintain the integrity. And then the third question is, what are the projects? So I advocate that the projects would need to be done in such a way that there are adequate resources that allows us to implement them properly. And it must be done with a very good network between different institutions. And that is because the only way that we can solve the issues that we have is that we need to take a multidisciplinary approach, and no longer can we work in our own corners, but we need to work across disciplines. Also, we need to incorporate traditional knowledge, and some of the speakers, Russell spoke about this, and earlier there were some sentiments about this as well, where we need to incorporate traditional knowledge and culture. And we also need to take into account the specificities of the geographies around the world. And so in order for us to do this, the worldview that we use would have to incorporate the social institutions that exist, and also what different communities do within the land that they live and reside, and the interface of the knowledge that is generated within that space. We also need to take into account natural climate solutions because it is estimated that at least 11 gigatons of carbon can be sequestered through natural climate solutions, essentially safeguarding what we have. And when we look at the Paris Agreement, which seeks to give us a pathway of at least 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is insufficient to say the least, we see that natural climate solutions can play a very big role in allowing us to reach that target. As I said before, a multidisciplinary approach would need to be taken into account when we manage and implement our projects. No longer can we have ecologists and sociologists fighting against each other, but we need to ensure that our lifestyles and our interface with the landscapes are done in such a harmonious relationship for local sustainability. And finally, I would like us to also reflect on the pandemic, which haunted us for the last 2 to 3 years. The fact is that in the future, we will have more pandemics and they will be much more intense. But one of the things that we can learn from the COVID-19 pandemic is the way in which it occurred and how it is related to our interaction with wildlife, our interaction with the natural environment, and the fact that it is possible for this virus and perhaps others to return and attack the human population again. And so because of that, and the lessons that we can learn in the pandemic, it actually demonstrates the need for us to have exercise proper environmental stewardship. And so the final considerations I want to leave with you are that in order for us to make better use of our limited funding, we need to ensure that we don't have overlaps. Because as it is right now, the governments and so on, they do not invest as much in environment as they do in other sectors. We also need to promote strong multidisciplinary approaches in order for us to ensure that we go down a green pathway. And we also need to work towards alternative development trajectories. Countries that are considered developing can't achieve the very same developmental pathways as those that are rich today. So we need to change based on the current realities. And finally, that a blue world is also a greener world. So we need to take into account aspects such as the seagrass, mangroves, etc. And so we need to consider also the blue aspects and not just looking at our forests. And with those words, I thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Devon, for the interesting presentation. And you mentioned us about One Health, yeah? We did not only give focus, not only for human health, but also for animal health and also environmental health. So now we move to the last speaker, Pak Eka, but actually Pak Eka will present three topics here. Please, Pak Eka.
Thank you, Bu Santi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Shalom. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, fellow Bandung activists, and okay, I am sharing inline thoughts today of myself and two other colleagues, Paulo Mota and Cynthia, who unfortunately cannot be here. So, and then we've discussed this last night to have like a shared perspective of the three of us. But it'll be like a short one, so don't worry about it. So, okay, so please allow me to start with some figures. Right now, we have almost 8 billion people on the planet, 55% of which lives in the city, and of which occupies only 4% of the Earth's surface. And then it is predicted that by 2050, we will have another billion. So that's giving us 9 billion people, 70% of which will live in the city. That is equivalent to 6.3 billion citizenship. So I will repeat that, 6.3 people living in the city. As they said, you know, Rome was not built in one day. In 1 AD, Rome was the most populous city in the world with 100,000 inhabitants. 1,000 years later, London took over with 1 million inhabitants. And then in 1950, New York took over with 12 million people. And then just 50 years later, Tokyo took over with 30 million people. So it's 30 million citizens in one giant urban linkage. And today, out of 100 of the most populated cities in the world, about 85% of them located in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So it's scary, the challenge that we're facing. Meanwhile, on the other hand, city planning theories had mostly been developed based on the Eurocentric point of view, starting with the Garden City in the second half of the 19th century, mostly notable through the works of Ebenezer Howard, followed by Frank Lloyd Wright in the US, and then to the modern Athens Charter principles in the first half of the 20th century, most notably through Le Corbusier works with Siam Group in Europe, and then to the development of urban design conference based in Harvard GSD in the later half of 20th century, to the more recently Center of New Urbanism, of which developed mostly using samples from the North American and West European cities. Now, let me put you in a context. 85% of most populated cities in the world were actually planned using Eurocentric views. So, and then in this includes cities built by our Bandung leaders, which includes, among them, new city of Chandigarh by Nehru, redevelopment of Belgrade by Tito, and the redevelopment of Jakarta by Sukarno, and if we widen the circle, new city of Brasilia by Corbusier. Now, and eventually it all came to the same result: acute traffic jams, economic segregation, social segregation that happened. Now, in a different perspective, the cities that I had mentioned were built during the rise of the South, within the period of Bandung-Belgrade-Havana conferences. And now with the resurging of the South, history seems to repeat itself. For instance, with the new ongoing projects, redevelopment of the New Delhi political axis, and then in the building of new capital cities for Indonesia and Egypt, most of which still relying heavily on the Eurocentric theories. And I can explain that how it works later in the aeroplane, if you want. Okay, so colleagues, let me continue with more figures very fast now. In today's setting of 55% people living in the city, 60% greenhouse produced in the city. So only 40% produced in the village. 70% waste generated in the city, so only 30% in the village. 80% global energy consumed in the city, so only 20% in the village. And I will say this slowly, 95% of investment goes to the city, so only 5% for village development. Now, hence today, it is very much evidential that the actual urbanization model imposed globally by the industrialized countries through international funding mechanism, UN technical assistance, global media exposure, etc., it's already obsolete. You know, it's been like, it's undeniable. And other than, you know, the thing is that why it's obsolete is because it is not responding anymore actual needs other than serving a speculative real estate-based economic bubbles. That's what it does. So hence it is, I think, we think that it's time to, in the new researching time of South-South, we need new narratives, something that will address our unique problems as well as portrays our local wisdoms, something that will pave ways towards the ruralization of the planet. We had a wonderful panel yesterday about that, how we can do that, and then something that is made by us for us. That's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, Pak Eka. So you have finished for 3 papers? Yes. Okay. So it's great. Maybe we can move to discussion, yeah. Is there any question for the audience? Because the topic is very interesting today. It's about our... Okay, thank you, please.
Thank you. I was wondering about the proposed or under construction. I've heard different things, new Indonesian capital, and just kind of thinking about that as some of this new decolonial architecture, kind of where that fits into the space, or is that sort of alleviating other concerns?
Okay, so basically it's like this. The problem with building new cities is that because we tend to exploit more on the buildings, you know, but cities doesn't work that way. As you know, we need the new capital cities officially because Jakarta is sinking. But the problem is that when we started the program of that, the vision of that, it was started with an urban design competition where you should start with very broad regional planning, urban planning, and then, you know, when you have to explore how we can have like the system that is like unique, not the design that's unique, you know. Design is a different thing. And yeah, of course, and then that's the thing. And it happened all the way through, even like New Delhi, the new access for the government access. It's needed, yes, but it will like repeating the same thing. That's happened in Chandigarh, that happened in Brasilia, and they are the things. I mean, and to be frankly, it's not about popular or unpopular, but there is no other alternative. So we need to have this alternative. That's the thing. I hope that answered it.
Okay, thank you for the response and also for the question. Yeah. Is there any question again to talk about the environment as we living now? Yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay.
This is regarding a different kind of, I mean, this is about the politics within cities. And there is a very interesting debate between David Harvey and Lefebvre. And I think you should also bring that in your writings or presentation, or you may comment on that. Do you think, I mean, as Lefebvre envisages, that we have a possibility of democratization within the city, where Harvey would say that it is not possible because cities are byproduct of the accumulation process by way of disposition. So you comment on it.
Okay, thank you.
And comment from the audience, please. Yeah, yeah.
Hi. Can
There,
you guys hear me? Can I comment now?
it's a little question. There is a debate on what is more appropriate in nowadays to, as you mentioned, all the investments, 95% I understood, is nowadays dedicated to the urban areas and only 5% to rural areas. But it is true also that if we developed the rural areas, we are at the same moment facing developing the rural areas, of course, as the first target, but also avoiding rural urban migration, which is also a huge problem nowadays. So wouldn't it be more practical and perhaps with best results to invest in rural areas to avoid this migration instead of thinking on new capital, new cities, etc.? What do you think? Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Maybe we can hear the response from Russell, yeah? Please.
All right, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
All right, I'd like to share my appreciation for Pak Eka's presentation, and in particular his insights about how the cities of the 19th century were designed from a human-centric perspective. I feel that indeed our cities are a microcosm of the particular philosophies, even deeper than that, the particular metaphysics that we bring to the table. And of course, 19th century thinkers were operating from a perspective of human benefits, human prosperity, human flourishing. These were the priorities, and not so much the other creatures or the ecosystems around it. Here again, I feel it's so important to learn from the ancient and ongoing great nations that have come before us that had a very different metaphysics. Rather than a human-centric perspective, they had what is called a kin-centric perspective, a perspective in which they saw the creatures around them as kin, as family. And with this, it's a metaphysical shift. It's just a shift in belief in how one sees the world. But from this cascades the benefits of ecological diversity, vitality, vibrancy that come when humans are contributing to the ecosystems around them rather than striving to minimize their harm to the ecosystems. So again, I would be most intrigued to see moving forward cities designed from a kin-centric perspective, as our ancestors did, as Karina Kylo pointed out. This is how many great nations have already built their cities and their societies.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you, Pak Russell. So now you can answer.
Okay,
Listen,
thank you. Very quickly, I'll try to very quickly. David Harvey is a very marvelous intellectuals. I've met him 3 times or 4 times. Very inspiring. The thing is, I agree and disagree with him. If we narrow down the scale, that's my point of view. That's where I stand. I mean, it's possible to do the democratization of the cities if we're talking about, it's called the urban acupuncture in several locations, mostly on the settlements area. That's possible. But David Harvey was talking about the whole city. It's impossible to do very quickly. So, and then go to Beatrice. That's exactly what we talk about during our session, parallel session. And then there was this very nice presentation from Jade from Sitsu. She was presenting the history of the rural reconstruction development in China that had been going since 1970, which apparently we don't know much of. So basically, when they start the rapid urbanization, they also do the rural reconstruction development just in case if things didn't work out. and things didn't work out. So it seems that now, she said that it seems that now in China, they are expecting the urbanization to slow down, and they will be ready if it's time for the ruralization to happen, because it takes time, and they'll be ready for that. That's thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Eka. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Okay, it's interesting from the yesterday discussion. It's about new ruralization, but it's but we didn't know about is it has the same impact also if we develop the new ruralization. Okay.
Even before that, when we talked with Professor Wen Cho-jun in Hong Kong, was not one of the initiators, he said that the pilot project was actually derived from studies from Russia and Indonesia. We have the transmigrasi policy. So that's what they studied, and then they implied in China, which that's like something.
Yeah. Did you have comment? No. Okay. Any comment again? Pak Farhan, maybe? Oh, nggak ada. Tentang urban planning, Pak. Urban rural. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. Did you have again comment, Pak Eka, before we closing this session?
Yeah, probably a very short one. So I think it's this we had this talk, this discussion yesterday afternoon, right?
Yeah.
That we have this huge mountain to climb, right? And then the thing is that if we have these huge mountains, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? And we're hoping that if we can actually start from ourselves, we have this, like Pak Gary said, this is a community-based conference, but it's not a one-off conference. We already have that, this community thing. So we need to keep on going. We have like the same people participating in the same cluster, developing the, so it will eventually get into a new theory at some point. That's what we do in the ecology. It's been like starting not 2017, 18. So we're not talking about the same thing. It was like, what's the next one? What's the next one? And we hope to be able to build that across platforms, not only in the Bandung spirit, but also across other platforms. And then, of course, we need more people. We need regeneration. We need those sort of things. Yeah. So we really like looking forward to have you all, to butt in and put some perspectives, because conferences are very short time. So that's the real work is the post-conference discussions. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Eka. To remind us that this conference is not, it's not stopped until this conference, our discussion, but we can continue our discussion through email, or maybe we have a virtual meeting, something like that, to make our dreams come true or realization. Okay, thank you very much for your coming, and also for during today's meeting, today's conference. I hope we enjoy the conference. Yeah, and enjoy also Bali. Yeah. Okay, thank you also for the speaker, Pak Russell, Devon, and Pak Eka. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So this is the last session, and we are going to fly in 3 hours. So we are going to the airport now, and we will eat in the bus. Yeah.
It's a kind of request. I want to take pictures with the students. Some pictures taken.
Okay.
Yes, so for all of the participants, can you please come forward?
And sekaligus, Pak Farhan, mohon pamit, kita akan berangkat terbang ke Bali.
Okay, so for all of the participants, can you please come forward? We are going to take a picture together. Okay, once more for all of the participants, can you please come forward? We are going to take a picture together. Can you please come forward? We are going to take a picture together for the last documentation.
Can anyone hear me there?
Pak Farhan, foto.
Okay, anyone, can you please come forward? We are going to take a picture together. For anyone who's still outside, can you please come in? We're going to take a picture.
Hello. Darvis. Hello.
Thank you very much for all of the participants today. Hopefully it was a wonderful experience that you got here in Surabaya, and stay safe for your flight, and see you again in the next occasion. Thank you very much, everyone. See you later.
Oh.